Welcome back to Munchausen's Proxy, and this is your weekly dose of CW foolishness with the spoiler review for Gotham Knights Episode 4. It is a show that is showing all the hallmarks of Batwoman writing without the benefit of better actors, and the actors for the most part were dreadful on Batwoman. Before we get into what happened this week, I want to say something about the ratings. The showrunners for Gotham Knights were writers for Batwoman, which started off seeing ratings around 1.8 million and a demo of 0.47 for the premiere. By the time the finale came along, Batwoman was barely keeping itself above 400,000, dipping below that in episode 5 of the last season. Gotham Knights started at Batwoman Season 3 numbers, and has since come pretty close to dipping below 400,000 in episode 2. How they rebounded even slightly, I have no idea, since the show itself has given no cause to feel optimistic about where this is all going. Starting with the ratings number, even lower than the record low CW premiere that Naomi began with at 802,000 with a 0.14 demo, Gotham Knights started low with 609,000 and a 0.11 demo, and has plummeted since. Since hitting Batwoman territory, it has not shown any tendency towards surging above the 500,000 mark anytime soon. Batwoman got 2 Mercy seasons for being stunning and brave. However, that was when CW was under Paramount and Warner Brothers management. Nexstar has not shown itself to be that kind of outfit yet, and Warner Brothers under David Zaslav stopped that kind of programming thinking a while ago. I doubt sub 500K is going to entice the decision makers in charge of Gotham Knights' fate to be nearly as lenient as they were with Batwoman. After all, Naomi got the axe halfway through the first season and only aired the rest of the episodes because CW's parent companies were broke and had nothing waiting in the wings to take its place. But enough of that. What happened in the show this week? Well, last week our band of idiots decided to investigate great-great-grandpa Wayne's accidental death decades ago as the best way to get out of their current situation, while they also saved a gala full of people who are probably trying to kill them from the mutant gang. This week we start out with an older black guy stagger running through the park with what looked at the time like bullet wounds that don't bleed properly, or the mother of all bug bites. Not sure. We find out later, but he tries to get people to help him, but they act like he is a crazy man because he's acting, well, like a crazy man. A police officer tries to calm him down, but only winds up providing him with a gun like a completely imbecilic rookie. Dude fires the gun in the air while ranting paranoid delusions before killing himself as a weird noise seems to get closer. Our idiots start this week down in the school after hours, looking over their clues. Well, Turner and Harper are. Duella is tooling around on a scooter while Cullen liberates a cake from the teacher's lounge. And, wait for it, they decide they are once more hitting a wall in their quote-unquote investigation, which is when Turner whines about wanting to go home. Duella chimes in about then, saying she found something that is going to change everything. Turner's yearbook pictures. They laugh about it, and then, as if the writing on this show can't get any worse, Turner knocks the Talon knife Cullen was using for the cake on the floor. It thunks into the wooden floor, and when Turner pries it out, he notices it makes the same marks in the wood that Grandpa Wayne had on his body when he was found. Then we get a newscast about the mayor's funeral, a gushing bit about Harvey Dent taking on the hostage-taker's leader, before we see Brody's dad talking about why he has decided to run for mayor against Harvey. He disses Harvey for not finding Bruce's killers and For those who like jangling keys, he calls Harvey a two-faced politician. Which is when we cut to Harvey waking on a couch in an office? His office? Whoever's office it is, it's tiny. The office of the district attorney for a city the size of Gotham should be about 5 times bigger than the one he wakes up in. A woman I'm assuming is his assistant comes in with a cup of coffee to tell him he is late for a briefing, mixed with some inane banter. He puts on his jacket and finds a key inside of it before rushing off to the briefing. On something. What? Don't know, because they cut to Turner still going over pictures of Grandpa Wayne. Something that has given up its requisite clue and has nothing else to show them. It is at this point that Stephanie voices what everyone with a functioning brain has already figured out. But the writers of the show don't have a functioning brain, or this would not be this stupid. So they need somebody to say it aloud. Harper cuts in with a biting bomb joke, which is also dumb. Robin then steps in with more wisdom from Captain Obvious by saying that maybe the knife was passed down from assassin to assassin. And I was pretty sure the answer was going to be even more retarded than that. And oh lordy, was I right. Cullen then wonders if there were more dead bodies with strange marks on them out there. Robin tells them that they would need access to all of GCPD's autopsy files to find out, at which point Robin and Turner turn to look at the siblings. Cullen looks up from his book to say it is going to take him a lot of trips. Stephanie pipes in with just one, holding up what looks like a flash drive. She tells him it's called a rubber ducky and would give them remote access to the computers. Cullen once more dons the police uniform, glasses, and mustache to go back to GCPD headquarters, bringing a cup of coffee to the desk sergeant this time. He bumps into Harvey, knocking his papers all over the floor as he heads to the record room. He apologizes and thanks Harvey for all he is doing as he walks away. Harvey tells him to stay safe out there. Cullen goes to the server room and Stephanie tells him to plug the drive into the main server. When the program loads, he leaves. Stephanie searches for more cross-shaped wounds and finds many. Turner asks her what the last one was, and it turns out to be the black guy from the park self-deletion. He was a lawyer who was one of Bruce Wayne's most trusted lawyers. Turner decides they need to find out what he knew that got him killed. That night, Turner decides to break into the lawyer's house and asks Harper to give him a crash course on lockpicking. Stephanie wants to go with him, but he says she has gotten into enough trouble for him already. He wants her to find out what she can about the knife. Since she is staying, Cullen decides to help her and asks Duella where they start. She tells them by asking an expert in all things sharp and pointy. Harper volunteers to go with Turner, and Stephanie looks a little jealous. But bringing Harper turns out to be a good idea, since when they get there, the lock gives even her trouble. She snarks about it being a good thing she came along and not Stephanie. He asks her what she has against Stephanie, and she claims it's because she almost got her killed disarming the bomb. Turner questions that, saying they are a lot alike. Back at the school, Duella plops a book down on the table and shows Stephanie and Cullen a picture of a knife thrower who is also a serial killer. She tells them the story about Felix Harmon, and one of the pictures shows him with a bandolier of the same knives Talon uses. And yes, I was feeling a disturbance in the retarded force. She tells them he was executed for the murders he committed as the Butcher of Gotham over 100 years ago. Stephanie finds that he had a daughter who is magically still alive and in a nursing home in Gotham. They suggest she might know how her dad's knives wound up in the hands of Talon. Back at the lawyer's house, Turner and Harper find the house a mess, appearing to have been searched before them. While they're chatting about it, with both of their backs to the open door, the lawyer's son comes in with a shotgun. Turner tells him they are looking for answers, and the son tells him that his father went crazy and trashed the place himself before running off to the park and killing himself. 2 weeks ago. And the house is still in a mess. Don't think about it. Turner tells him the Court of Owls probably did it, and the son gets a scared look on his face. When Turner asks him if he heard of them before, he says no, but he turns the light on to show them the walls are covered with, quote, "The owls are in the house," unquote. But then we go back with Harvey, where he comes into the police commissioner's office, which is also ridiculously small, to ask if there is any news on the mayor's death. She tells him that the Gazette has a source that claims the bomb is the same kind of bomb the mutant gang was going to set off at the gala. He asks her what her best guess is, and her best guess is dumb. She says the gang could have used the gala as a distraction to put the bomb in the mayor's car. Days later. Harvey sees she is not convinced and presses her on it. She tells him to close the door. When he does, she shows him the coin. He asks her if she thinks Bruce's and the mayor's deaths are connected, and she says the mutant gang could be trying to copycat, but does not sound convinced of this either. He then asks her what she knows about the Court of Owls. She laughs, asking him if she should check under her bed for monsters before answering. She tells him it is an old nursery rhyme that criminals would sometimes use as an excuse to blame crimes on. Back with Turner, who is still at the lawyer's house, he asks the son why the court would kill his father. The guide tells Turner that it could have something to do with the fact that 2 days before his death, Bruce came to the house to meet with his lawyer in secret to change his will. The son says his dad tried to tell the police that it was not true that Bruce tried, but had not yet changed his will, even calling the lead detective, Ford. It was not true that Bruce was cutting Turner out of his will. Then his father started acting crazy and went for a run in the park. The son did not know what the changes were specifically, and Bruce took the only copy, which Cressida burned in the first episode. But he heard his father tell Bruce that what he was doing would change everything, that he was about to become the greatest man in the history of Gotham. Turner channels Captain Obvious and says whatever was in that will got both their fathers killed. The next day, the entire gang of idiots gathers in the Belfry. Turner recapitulates the entire first episode, and Stephanie asks about the will, and if he knows where it is. He suggests Cressida would be the only one Bruce might trust with it, or with the knowledge of where it was hidden. He then waxes nostalgic about Cressida from his childhood. When they say it's a risk to go see her, Turner tells them that is why he is going alone. He then asks about the knife, and Robin magically appears to tell him that nursing home visiting hours start in 15 minutes. Duella pops up beside her with a blonde wig and a school uniform to go with her. They all look at her and she says, "What?" "You know, Eunice and I happen to have a lot in common, okay? Both daughters of serial killers. I'm sure we're going to have a lot to talk about." Robin then tells her that she will be doing all the talking. At the nursing home, Robin tells the guy at the front desk that they are there to do community service by reading to the old folks. Elsewhere, Lincoln March, Brody's father, stops Harvey in the hall and asks him if it was true that both Bruce Wayne and the mayor received coins before they were killed. Harvey tells him that he can't talk about it. March then tells him he's not asking for gossip, but because he received one too. He just needs to know if he is in danger. Harvey just kind of gives him this dumb, squinty look before we cut back to Robin and Duella. They get into Eunice's room and ask her about growing up in Old Gotham. When Eunice says she wouldn't know where to start, Duella suggests she could tell them about her father being the Butcher of Gotham. Robin smacks her, but Duella tells her they don't have time to pussyfoot around. Eunice tells them that she's not supposed to talk about it. It's a secret. Duella then pinky swears with her that they know how to keep a secret. Eunice then asks what she wants to know about Papa, giggling. Back at school, Stephanie suggests that Talon might dip his blades in a hallucinogenic to make his victims appear crazy, since the wounds they found on his victims were relatively shallow and in non-lethal locations. Cullen then goes on a trip down abusive alcohol memory lane as he talks about his father. Stephanie shows she kind of knows what he is talking about, suggesting that her father or mother is also an addict of some kind. Back with Eunice, as she reminisces about the circus and her father. She says that her father still looks over her, sending her music boxes to add to her collection. Duella asks if he ever sent his knives to anyone, because someone is using them to kill people now. Eunice gets a funny look in her eye and says it's such a crude name, that her father never butchered anyone. She asks Duella if she could take her to get her blanket because she is getting cold. She then tells her that her father used to dissect his prey with a surgeon's skill. Eunice then turns evil granny on them, saying his victims got what they deserved, just like they will. Her father would be very displeased that they tricked her into talking about things she shouldn't. She then tells them to beware of the Court of Owls before she starts saying the same thing Duella sang in the first episode, as the girls fled the room and down the hall. Cressida is reading when Turner comes in. She rushes to hug him. She asks why he didn't come to her sooner, and he tells her he did not want to drag her into it. She says there is nothing she would not do to help him. He thanks her for believing in him, telling her there is a way she can help prove he is innocent. But the editor is a meth fiend, so we go back to the tower, where Stephanie says there's no trace of hallucinogenics, but there are traces of some unknown substance. Cullen tells her that he knows what she is trying to hide. She then admits that her mother is a pillhead, which is why she is waiting to go home until her mom passes out. Cullen offers to be her sounding board and to keep her secret. More meth and another cut, and we see Harvey going into evidence lockup to check out a piece of evidence, the coin. The coin, however, is checked out already by Harvey, which is a surprise to him. The idiots all return to the tower later and await Turner, and discuss Crazy Granny when they find Cressida's name on the visitor's log that the pair of girls apparently stole from the nursing home, but we never saw that. She was the only visitor for Eunice, which is when our meth fiend editor cuts back to Turner, telling Cressida about the will, and she leaves to go look for it, which she burned in the first episode. Stephanie calls to tell him that Cressida is with the Court of Owls. He tells her that is impossible when she comes back in with a gun, telling him to hang up. When they come back from commercial, she apologizes to Turner, asking for the phone. When he goes to give it to her, he takes the gun. He asks if she killed Bruce. She tells him that she helped the court by making it possible to kill him, giving him low doses of poison to weaken him, slow his reflexes. She tells him that Bruce was a threat to the court's hold on the city, and he was just collateral damage. He tells her to give him one good reason to keep her alive. She says she can't, that she never meant to hurt him, and she always cared for him. A voice behind him says she is telling the truth. A group of mask-wearing members of the Court of Owls comes in, saying she was always a good servant, and always spoke highly of him, petitioning to spare him. They offer him the opportunity to swear to the court, and he will have the charges cleared, becoming a prince of Gotham once again, and so much more. He asks them if they expect him to just forget about ruining his life, and let them get away with it. The court spokesman tells him they will get away with it no matter what he does. He asks how they expect him to trust them, and they tell him membership in the court is not free. They want the other three fugitives. Cressida urges him to betray them and save himself. He declines, which is when Talon enters the room. Turner empties the gun into Talon to no effect. Just as he's about to be skewered, Robin somehow crashes through a window she would not be able to look through standing outside. She throws a flashbang and drags Turner to the Batcave, and it was at that point that I came to the conclusion once more that there had to be multiple Talons, because they were no sooner at the bottom of the stairs in the Batcave, and Talon was at the top, despite being blinded by the flashbang. Robin drags Turner further into the Batcave, with Talon on their heels. She turns and fires her grapple gun at him twice, both shots being deflected by his sword, before she somehow makes the cave roof collapse on him while they flee. Back at the tower, Stephanie consoles Turner over the betrayal of Cressida. He says he has been replaying his childhood, wondering how he and Bruce did not see it. He is only now realizing there is no going home for him. Cressida was the last person he had who cared about him. She tells him he is not alone. He has her. And the weirdos downstairs. Downstairs, Cullen tells Harper that she should give Stephanie a chance. Harper blows up, saying Stephanie is what she could have been if she had been given everything on a silver platter. Cullen then gives her validation and tells her to get to know Stephanie. Don't judge her like they have been judged. Then we go back to Harvey and the commissioner, who are looking over the limo. She gets called by the lab, and Harvey discovers the key he found in his pocket is the missing key to the mayor's limo. Then we cut to Duella, who is looking at Eunice's music box that she stole when Robin comes in. She laments that her father was not nearly as good a dad as Eunice's, despite the fact that both of them were psychos. Robin wants the box to check for prints. Back at Wayne Manor, the Quarter of Owls has Talon's body sprawled on a table, seemingly dead. But then we go back to the tower, and Stephanie is checking the prints they found on the music box against her new access to the GCPD database. As she is going through the prints, the body of Talon starts straightening out its broken limbs. The last fingerprint comes back a match for Eunice's dad, Felix Harmon. He was supposed to have been executed about 100 years ago. That, blessedly, was that. And the first thing I want to say is that the editor for this show needs to start smoking weed and lay off the meth, because this episode jumped all over the place, especially the end. There's no need for it, especially since it does not add anything to the show other than to extend the stupid. Other than that, let's start this breakdown by saying that a little time marker would have been lovely for the opening scene. Until we hit the scenes with the sun, we have no idea that this is something that happened weeks ago. The smarter thing, I know, we're talking about Batwoman writers, but the smarter thing would have been to stick it in the first episode right after the night scenes following the breakup of the party at Wayne Manor. Then we would get the payoff in this episode, and it would make sense that Bruce's lawyers would not represent him in the first episode. Then we once more have the idiots running out of clues. They have no will to persevere in the face of an investigation they decided to take up. An investigation that is a decades-old accidental death. The fact that they all get hit by an accidental clue-by-4 mere minutes later is just plain ridiculous. The idea that an assassin would use a throwing knife to introduce hallucinogenics to their victim is also kind of moronic. There are dozens of better ways to do it. Everything from poison-tipped umbrellas a la the KGB to breaking into their house and dosing their favorite drinks. As a matter of fact, we see one such method near the end, when Cressida makes her confession. When they showed Lincoln March's press conference, and he called Harvey a two-faced politician, I wanted to facepalm myself into oblivion. I could already see Leonardo DiCaprio pointing at the TV in my head. And then we have Harvey waking up and finding the key to the limo in his pocket, which is also stupid. If he did not know where the key was from, he should have tossed it. If he still has it in the next episode, we will know that the writers for this show actually have negative IQs. They are black holes of intelligence and creativity. The continued tension between Stephanie and Harper is also moronic, and without proper foundation. And anyone who thinks that scene after the bomb diffusion is foundation is probably licking the same paint off the wall that the writers are. Turner and Harper meeting the lawyer's son was not terrible, but no thief who has any time breaking into houses is going to keep their back to a door for any length of time. They would also likely shut the door, especially if it was shut when they got there. Also, why did they not make a cursory search of the house to make sure they were alone in it so that they could then talk freely, not worry about being caught, and have more time to look for what they were there for? They are two of Gotham's most wanted, and this was amateur hour. Add on top of that, the house was still a mess 2 weeks after his father was killed. Why is it still a mess? At the very least, why did the cops not take all the papers to look through to figure out why this guy went nuts? And even if that didn't happen, the son or somebody else in the family would have cleaned up that room, if for no other reason than to settle the guy's estate when the lawyers come calling. The side plot of them looking into a century-old serial killer for clues was just retarded. There would be no way that would come to anything, especially since Eunice would have to be in her 12th decade for the ages to match up. Even with CW not following the ages from the comics, their timelines are off by a few decades. Also, I doubt Felix's fingerprints would be in the computer. He was supposedly executed at the beginning of the 20th century, and the earliest use of fingerprints in the United States was 1902. The idea that the fingerprints of somebody who was executed would be kept and then digitized is ludicrous. Eunice herself would have to be well past 110 to have any memories worth asking about regarding Felix. Then we have the fact that CW and the incompetence they gave this show to decided to use him instead of one of the many other Talons that are in the comic canon these days. And it makes it even more bizarrely retarded. I have no idea what went into that bit of stupidity, but there was no reason for it since the comics give you Talons through the ages that would not require supernatural means of preserving Felix and fixing his body when it gets damaged. I don't know how they will explain this, but it will be dumb. The conversation between Harvey and the police commissioner was also more than a little moronic. That she even uttered the idea that the mutant gang would have staged the takeover of the gala the night it was held to cover for their attempt to kill the mayor what had to be at least a day or two later is astounding. As soon as they found the coin in the mayor's limo, they should have come to one of three conclusions. First, and most likely, Turner and company are innocent, and the killer of Bruce Wayne also killed the mayor. Second, Turner and company killed the mayor, as they did Bruce Wayne. Or third, Turner and company were in league with the people who killed the mayor. However, if it was the first, they should have come out and announced that they think Turner and company were innocent, and the mayor's murder was connected to the murder of Bruce Wayne. In the case of the second or third option, they should have come out and laid the blame for the mayor on Turner and company. After all, the mayor has already blamed them for the death of Detective Ford and his team, along with Bruce Wayne. Either way, that whole scene was like throwing a monkey wrench into the already overly complicated story this show is trying to tell. about the only way adding a coin to the mayor's murder works is if there is a crooked commissioner and detectives on the case ready to lay the blame on Turner and Company, which didn't happen, especially since Harvey should now assume Bruce's coin was left by the killer, just as the mayor's coin was. I suspect Lincoln March telling Harvey he has been given a coin is some kind of ruse to either allow him insight into Harvey's thinking on the investigation, or sympathy by making him or the public think there is someone going after Gotham's elite. Since I am assuming the March family is in the Court of Owls, I'm leaning towards the former. I think the will plotline has finally been laid to rest, I hope, because this was a rather clumsy way to put Turner on the hook for Bruce's death to begin with. First off, most guys like Bruce Wayne would not have just one copy of a will, just in case. Given Bruce Wayne was also Batman, that would go doubly so. In this episode, we come back to the idea that Bruce missed Cressida being from the Court of Owls, an organization he has on and off suspected of being an enemy of his family since his childhood. That she would be the person he would give the only copy of his will to, I found implausible. This episode made me once more wonder about the elephant that has been in every room since this show began. Where is Alfred? Is he dead? He would have to be, because if Bruce Wayne was going to trust anyone with his will, it would have been Alfred. The idea that the Court of Owls would want an idiot like Turner in the ranks is equally laughable. Without the new will, I doubt control of Wayne Enterprises and the fortune that goes with it would go to the adopted son. And that is assuming Bruce was changing his will to actually make Turner a majority beneficiary, which is also doubtful, given that the lawyer was heard to say that what he was doing would change everything, and he would go down in history as the greatest man in the history of Gotham. Simply giving your estate to an adopted son would not do that. It would have to be something a tad more radical. Since the gala episode, I was pretty sure Stephanie's home life was not ideal. This episode, we find there is an addict in the family. I am shocked that the writers in modern-day Hollywood did not have it be the dad that was the abusive pillhead. And as soon as that thought popped into my head, I realized they will probably find some way to make it Dad's fault anyway. This episode was one dumb scene after another, most of it trying to outdo the one before it. Lots of sharing of feelings and validation thrown in for good measure. As I said in the beginning, the ratings of this show are pretty much in the toilet already. I would be shocked if they managed to push this series back above the 500K mark in the ratings before the end of the season. Naomi ended with a season low for the finale, and Batwoman was not too far off their season low when the show finally came to an end. This series is earmarked for 12 episodes that I know of, so there is plenty of time to beat the Batwoman low of 372,000 and a Naomi demo low of 0.05. With Gotham Knights scraping in a 428K for the second episode, it is entirely possible they will if they keep going with this dreck. That is all I have for you this video. If you like what I do here, please click the like button, subscribe to the channel, share the video, and comment down below. It is much appreciated. The next video will be episode 10 of the arc. Until then, tschüss.